Good morning, LA. Good afternoon, New York. Good evening, Europe. And thanks to all of those of you joining from Asia or any other places where it's rather late. So we're excited to welcome you for our first Dweet and FashionSIGHTS live session. So it's a proper premiere, and we take the opportunity to discuss the quite interesting question about the future of careers in fashion and luxury. And we got an esteemed group together that we will introduce in a second. My name is Achim Berg. I'm the founder and MD of FashionSIGHTS, which is a think tank focusing on the future of the fashion industry. And we're very excited to have many of you joining us right now. So I think there's a couple of more that signed up for this. We would love to make this as interactive as possible. So we'll provide an email address to provide any questions for the Q&A. We will also take any questions in the chat function, and we try to cover those to the extent we can. So we would be excited to see and hear where you are dialing in from. So feel free to drop us a note with the city you are dialing in from in the chat function, so that we get a bit of an idea how international and how diverse this group is. So without further ado, would love to hand over to Laurent from Dweet. Good to see you, Laurent. How are you?
Hello, Achim. Yeah, good to be here today with you on this live. So maybe I introduce myself briefly as well. I'm Laurent, as you can hear from my accent. I'm the French guy from this group. I'm currently based in Paris. I'm the co-founder of Dweet. Dweet is a talent platform dedicated to fashion, beauty, and luxury. We also develop AI recruiter software, but our main activity today is placing fashion, beauty, and luxury professionals in temporary or permanent roles in the industry. We operate from London, Paris, but also we place some people in the US and other parts of Europe as well. So that's me, and that's Dweet in a nutshell. And maybe Laura, would you like to introduce yourself as well, or Melanie?
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me. I'm Laura Buckle, and I'm the Executive Director of Global Talent at SKIMS. I am in Los Angeles, but as you can hear, I'm a Brit. I'm from Cheshire in the UK, and I moved to California in 2014. I was working as an agency as a recruiter, and then launched my own company in 2018. I got a lot of wonderful fashion clients, and one of my first was Good American. And that partnership with them led me to supporting a small project in September 2018, which turned into the monster beast that is now SKIMS. I helped to build the team from the ground up and was actually the sole recruiter for our early years for about 3 years, including the COVID times. Today I lead a growing team, and I oversee recruitment across every level, from sales assistants to C-suite, both domestically and internationally. I also lead our employer branding efforts. I run our careers page. I support our employee development and learning, which is something I'm exceptionally proud of. We've seen a lot of people at SKIMS grow throughout their time here. So yes, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. And Melanie?
Hi. So I'm in London, and I am a Londoner. I am the careers consultant at the London College of Fashion. I've got over 30 years experience as a buyer. before moving into the talent and career development space, where I worked as a headhunter. So I did something similar to you, I guess, Laura, but maybe with a slightly different background, and then moved on to being a consultant. I've worked with a variety of luxury, premium and high street brands as a buyer, and on projects relating to talent acquisition and executive search. I'm really passionate about building not just brands, but careers through putting the right people in the right place at the right time. So I am now using this industry expertise and my love of helping people to develop their careers at the London College of Fashion, where I am coaching the next generation of talent, fashion talent, creative talent, looking to take their first steps into the industry. So I'm really excited to be here and be the spokesperson for that cohort.
Fabulous. And I think we got a great group together to discuss actually what the current state of the recruiting for the fashion and luxury industry is, and also how we expect things will develop. I think we all feel that it is one of the rather challenging moments. I think we've seen quite a run in the last couple of years. Luxury was booming since 2016. COVID was a big hit, but there was a relatively quick recovery. There was some post-COVID excitement. But it looks that things have cooled down a bit from a macroeconomic point of view, and things are also cooling down a bit from a structural point of view when we talk about the luxury part of things. So maybe asking the first question to you, Melanie, is how are students dealing with that challenging situation? I think it's probably more difficult to get the dream job. It takes more efforts. People feel there's more competition. So how are students dealing with all of that?
I mean, what we're seeing, our students are very agile and very resilient. So I think what we're seeing, what I'm certainly seeing, is a shift in mindset, I guess. And we're working with the students to kind of create this shift in mindset. They are becoming more open to careers within the wider creative industries. So, there are 16 creative industries. It's not just fashion, and the skills that you possess are transferable to a variety, if not all, of these creative industries where there are opportunities equally as exciting as fashion. So I think students are becoming much more open to this. They're also flexing their unique skill sets and looking at ways that they can perhaps pursue non-linear career paths. So many students are considering portfolio careers. They're looking at freelancing, growing their side hustles and working in the industry at the same time, which is giving them kind of more control over their destiny and a certain amount of freedom, I guess, to leverage some of those opportunities, but at the same time doing their own thing and developing and building their skills. I think there's also a real strong rise in entrepreneurship, entrepreneurial thinking, and we see lots of students launching their own ventures, some of them while they're still at university, and building their own personal brands. So I think our students are at the forefront. They're not waiting for that perfect job to appear. They're using their resilience to really kind of get out there and create their own opportunities.
Fabulous. So, Laura, I think SKIMS is famous for receiving a lot of applications.
Oh, yeah.
A lot, I think, and I'm sure people will be interested in some numbers. But do you see, is it, even growing in the number of applications? Do you see changes on how people apply? How is this more difficult market playing out at your end?
I would say for us, I think candidates are prioritizing different things. And I think what Melanie said, but the candidates are much more adaptable. I will say that. I agree, absolutely, especially sort of this generation of new talent, very adaptable, very flexible. And that's joyful to see for a company like us that really needs people that are able to adapt, that are able to flex into different areas, you know? But I also think that well-being and environments that make candidates feel safe, that are thoughtful, that are inspiring. I think candidates are now looking for environments where, you know, their voices are heard, where they feel seen, where they feel valued. I think, you know, post-pandemic for about 3 years, it was so challenging for me to get people to come back into the office. That was, you know, the dominant mindset was I can and I have done my job from home. And yeah, in many cases that's pretty true. But you know, I always say historically there's a reason that we've always had offices, right? And it's not just to oversee what people do, but it's actually to build a community. We are in this environment so much, and especially in creative industries like fashion, where spontaneous collaboration is really essential. So, you know, and I always say to people, some of the best decisions that have come out of SKIMS have not been when we've been in a boardroom. It's actually been when we've walked to the kitchen to make a cup of tea, right? Those are when the best decisions. So I feel like, you know, for the 3 years after COVID, it was very challenging, but I've really noticed a very dramatic shift that people are really excited to be back. People are wanting that community feel. People are craving people culture. But to get people back, it needs to be more than just a desk, right? Okay. So I feel like you have to create these incredible spaces. You have to create these beautiful workspaces. I mean, at SKIMS, we give people unlimited snacks, which is no good for my waistline. But, you know, unlimited snacks, we give
Well,
people...
unlimited snacks at SKIMS are a bit surprising, if I'm honest.
It's kind of well, it's amazing. You know, we embrace it. Eat what you want. Be who you want.
Just wear SKIMS. I think that's
yeah, just wear SKIMS. But I do think that that's the change that I've seen in candidates now. They're not just looking for the best company. They're looking for the best cultural fit. They're looking to be looked after, and they're looking to be a part of something. And I think that is one of the biggest things that I've seen in people that are applying right now.
But it also sounds like candidates are not lowering their expectations. I think candidates are still, you know, looking for the full Monty, and you know, I'm sure SKIMS is in high demand in that respect. We also heard, I think Laura, no, Melanie, you said that. I think candidates get a bit more flexible, not only looking for a permanent role, but also looking for you know, different roles in parallels, transitionary roles. So Laurent, I think Dweet was one of the founding ideas of Dweet to give candidates more flexibility. So do you feel that? Is it still relevant, or you know, was that a COVID or post-COVID phenomenon?
No, I mean, definitely. I mean, the expectations have changed. Myself, I started, you know, working in the fashion industry over 20 years ago. At the time, I was working at Chanel, and people were working 10, 15, 20 years for Chanel. But then obviously things have changed over time on the talent side, but on the brand side as well. COVID, you know, was an acceleration in terms of you know, remote working, in terms of you know, flexible work, and so much has changed in the past 3 years for sure. But this dynamic has obviously started before that. So we see. First of all, you know, certain brands won't keep people, you know, 10 years because they need different skills at different time. That's one thing. And on the other hand, talent wants also a lot of diversity in their career. So we see people who want to work more flexibly, and it may just be a transition within their career. So they had a permanent job for many years, and then before starting their next opportunity, they want to work as a freelancer or as a consultant for a couple of years. So we see a lot of that, and it was when I started working, it was just not possible to imagine, such career. So we see a lot of that for sure. Also, the brands today have to be very agile, because the environment, as you started to mention, Achim, at the beginning of our talk, has changed dramatically, and they need to build different type of teams as well. So some people, especially on the creative side, will want to work more independently, and you need to be able to onboard these people within your organization. Some other people, obviously, would want to have more, let's say, a more permanent job, and you need also to keep and retain these people. So I mean, it's not easy today, and Laura, I know that hiring the right team for a company today is not easy, because you have a variety of profiles, obviously, and a variety of situations to handle. So it's
And Laurent, do you see a certain roles that are still in high demand? Is there specific job specific geography? So is there a pattern? I'm sure that's interesting for those who are listening.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, 5 years ago, when we were projecting ourselves in 2025, we were saying that half of the business would be online and that retail was dead. It's not the case today, and we see that brands are still opening retail stores, and that clients still enjoy shopping and enjoying a real life experience. So all around the world, we're still opening stores, a lot less than we used to a couple of years ago, but still, it's the case. So retail is still alive and kicking. Obviously, wholesale and e-commerce are extremely important. So on the commercial side, I would say that not much has changed. We need profiles that can be agile and work, in a blended universe of e-com and physical point of sales. That's for sure. And then, I mean, creatives are also in extremely high demand, because the brands, need to deliver new collections, and sometimes at a higher pace than before. So you sometimes need to onboard certain type of talent for a collection, and we'll discuss it, I guess, in the future. But AI is also transforming a lot the landscape. But I would say that distribution still the same type of roles as before. It's more in HQ that things are evolving.
Laura, do you see the same pattern? And is retail a great way to start a career in a fashion company?
Oh, 100%. I mean, we opened 8 stores last year. We're set to open many more this year. The following year, we're going to launch our international stores. So, it's an incredibly exciting environment to be in. And, I don't just mean from the store floor. We're investing heavily on the corporate side of retail too. So from technology, so RFID, those kind of roles, very important, visual merchandising, operations. We now have a new warehouse in Europe, so our goal really is to make sure that customer experience and those touch points are always perfect, regardless. So all of those roles coming up in retail right now, roles I would say that support the full ecosystem are the roles right now that are kind of front and center. But I think, in fashion, the biggest thing for me and the biggest focus and priority is that innovation and concept. For us, those roles will always be there, because if you're not innovating, you're at the risk of falling behind very, very quickly. So for me, those roles are always, innovation, concept, they're always kind of up here. But yeah, retail is very, very exciting right now for us.
And is there a secret role or, a department that is kind of overlooked, but that you think is actually super interesting and should receive many more applications?
Yeah, recruitment. It's so interesting. I get to speak to interesting, creative, wonderful people all day. And I'm just constantly amazed at the level of talent and the new talent that I get to speak to. It's so exciting, and it's the best thing about my job. And I don't understand why more people don't want to do what I do. Great.
I'm sure many will check your homepage now. I think we've shown the link earlier, and we're going to show it again so that they find the careers page of SKIMS. Melanie, so how are students dealing with all of that? How do they prepare for the non-traditional path? How do they get the skills to innovate as Laura suggested?
I mean, I think for many universities, especially those at the kind of intersection of fashion innovation, and particularly for us here at UAL and the London College of Fashion, our academics are really embedding these new areas like technology, like sustainability, the circular economy, even AI, into the curriculum. So our students are kind of getting, I guess, this expert first-hand insight into the industry through the academics and through visiting lecturers and through industry partnerships. I think our careers support is also evolving. So we're constantly helping students to kind of map out their career plans, set their goals against an industry that's changing, and kind of trying to fast forward and look at some of those emerging roles. And we do this by working very closely with industry. So I think from the academic side, they've really got their finger on the pulse of what's happening in the industry. And then from the careers side, we're really working together with the academics and industry to make sure that our students are kind of, I guess, ready, building their professional profiles for a world that's looking for kind of future facing values, the ability to help regenerate and focus on inclusivity, sustainability, and that technological innovation.
So how important are internships, working experience, jobs on the side next to university? Is that something that you would students encourage to take, or should they more on the academic side of things?
I mean, many of our students, come with, they come to us, and they, some of them, it's impressive what they've done already, but as they set foot into university in year one. For some students, it may not be the right thing to do. It may not be, they may not have the opportunity to have internships or have placements because they may have additional responsibilities outside or on top of their university life. But I think it's definitely an advantage to be able to have an internship, and also many of our courses now have a year in industry, so I guess a placement year. So this is another opportunity for students to take a step outside of their university life, to go into industry, to build their skills there, to get that exposure, and most importantly, I guess, to network. Again, many students, I met with a student recently, and I've actually invited her to come back and speak to our soon-to-be graduating cohort, who had done her placement year with a tailor, and then she'd gone on to work there on graduating from university. So, you know, it's interesting to talk to her and hear how she did this, how she made this happen. You know, what were the skills that she used? How did she, you know, build her network? How did she obviously make, you know, a great impression? And she's going to deliver this to this insight, this intel, to our students as well, so that they can make the most of these opportunities. But yeah, I think it's always a good thing, but it's just not something that everybody is able to do.
And it's probably also a good way to develop soft skills. I think it's
a good way
we discussed that over the years. That
absolutely.
Dynamical record and great. You know, of course, you need good grades for many of the roles, but working experience, as you said, the ability to network, to influence, to lead a team at one point. So, how important are soft skills from your point of view?
Hugely important. I think the ability, you know, fashion in particular is such a, you are working with different stakeholders day in, day out. It's so collaborative. Those soft skills really need to be there. You need to not only be able to give your opinion, you also need to listen. You occasionally need to bite your tongue. I think as well, you know, excuse me, you need to be able to sell yourself. You need to be able to communicate with people in presentation settings. You're going to be and also wearing different hats for different people. I think that's a soft skill that people don't think about, you know, because the way that you talk to your team might be wildly different than the way you present to the board. Okay, so it's just having those skills are definitely extremely important. But just coming back to something that Melanie said, which is very true, about some people are not in a situation where they can intern, right? Internships demand a lot of time, but I've actually hired people who just have a hobby, and they've sold me on their hobby. And so, you know, I think because I recognize that passion. Okay.
So what kind of hobby impresses you? So,
you know, I had somebody that just decided to teach themselves how to knit, you know, and they just decided to do it during COVID, and all of a sudden they got a love for fabrics and knits and wovens, and, you know, and then somebody I spoke to, I'm hiring a copywriter right now, and, you know, during COVID, that's when they started to write, and they just loved it, and they started to write down their thoughts every day. And I think it's, you know, I think passion comes across more than anything. That's what I look for when I'm looking for talent.
And maybe let's go a bit deeper on that one, because I'm sure a lot of the people on this session here will be interested. Is how do you stand out? I think you get so many CVs. You get, I'm sure, impressive, you know, grades. People study abroad, they travel, they do. So what is, you know, give us some examples, a feel for what are you looking for? What makes you take a second look?
Yeah, I think somebody that has very clearly done their research on the company and has really researched the job. And you can tell that might be a cover letter. Or it might just be a resume that you can really tell it's tailored to what we need. Okay. And I think I do want to talk about this with resumes, and I don't know if we can discuss it a bit later in depth, but, you know, when you're applying for a position, it's now not good enough to just apply using a resume that you apply for everything. You've really got to be thoughtful about the role that you're applying for, and really make sure that your resume is tailored for that role. Now, you don't have to lie, but, you know, you do obviously have to really hone in on those points that we are looking for. So when I receive a resume, I can tell just by some keywords, or I can tell from a cover letter, I can tell if somebody has really researched that. And that is, for me, immediately, this person's done their homework.
But it sounds like a basic, but I have
so basic, but so many people forget it.
No, also the application that we receive at FashionSIGHTS, you are kind of surprised that if you say we want to have somebody who's based here, that this doesn't necessarily mean you could do that job from New York or London. So so the bar is in a way not that high. I think it starts with reading the job description and provide a tailored application, not just doing hundreds of applications, but probably do fewer but better ones. So is it that simple, or what else?
That's simple to get there, I think. I really do believe that. I mean, the amount of people that have applied to a designer position when it's a fashion designer position and they're a graphic designer is unfathomable to me. That's somebody who's not read through the job description. So it starts with that. It's really simple. Read the job description. Make sure that your resume is tailored towards that. Like I said, don't lie, but make sure it is tailored towards that. And then the initial screening call is it's our opportunity to find out more about you, and it's your opportunity to really sell yourself. And that initial screening call is so important, because in that screening call, I'm not just looking for those skills that you've listed down. That's when I want to really hear your personality. That's when I want to hear those soft skills. That's when I want to hear why you want to work for us. And also that's when I want to hear your questions. I love a smart question. I actually, I talk a lot. I like to be flummoxed. I like somebody to give me a question where I'm like, I like to be challenged. So I think, yes, it's that simple at the start, especially with the introduction of AI. I know some students are very scared of it. Some people are very, don't like the idea of it, but it is an incredibly useful tool if you use it correctly. We use an AI system. We tell that AI system what to look for. And that brings me back to the importance of making sure that your resume is tailored for that job. Okay. Yeah. You are missing out if you don't tailor it for that, because we tell AI what to look for. And
but that means both sides are using AI now.
Absolutely.
Is that the truth? So candidates are using AI to get a beautiful CV, and maybe even to tailor it, hopefully, to the specific application. And on the other side, Dweet is also providing an AI tool for the recruiter. So how does it play out now? So is the one equaling the other, or equaling it even out?
Well, I think sorry,
Laura, go ahead.
I think the important thing to understand is AI doesn't take the human aspect out of it. It doesn't. That is a myth, right? Because if you are using the correct AI tool, you actually feed AI the questions. They're coming from you. They're coming from your company. Okay, so you're not removing any human aspect for it, really. You're just simplifying the process, and you're actually giving candidates a better experience, because you're able to communicate much quicker with those candidates. And I do think, coming back to candidate expectations, people are very frustrated. The job market is difficult. It's challenging to find a position. I feel that we get more and more complaints about ghosting, people not getting back to people. This tool is wonderful for avoiding that. Sometimes things slip through the cracks. That does happen. But I think, instead of being a bit frightened about this tool, just know that this tool is going to enable you to get through. You just have to make sure that the basics are there. The human is still behind it, for sure.
Yeah. Also, I mean, Laura, going back to what you said earlier, we recognize when, someone who applies is genuine, and also a right fit. So, I mean, AI badly used, makes it even more generic. So your chances, to be unseen are actually higher if you don't use AI wisely. You need to know what you're applying for. You need to really want it. You need to do your research before. And as you said, a lot of people, unfortunately, are a bit delusional. and they're applying even though they have zero chance, but just because they see the word designer and, and they have designer in their title, they feel that they are relevant. So no, it's really important, first of all, to do your research. I mean, obviously, people are using AI to make their CV or their portfolio look, better. But today, AI sees and recognizes AI. So we can tell a fake from someone who has a genuine approach and who's really motivated and who's actually right and looks the part.
Melanie, what do you recommend your students for, for the whole application process, the use of AI, and how to stand out?
I mean, we talk about AI, we talk about the use of AI, but with caution. So by all means, you can use AI to support an application, to support you making improvements to your CV, to support you in crafting a really strong cover letter that's going to get you noticed. But it's got to be in partnership with, as you both say, Laura and Laurent, it's got to be in partnership with your own passion, your own insight as well. So, I mean, absolutely. Why wouldn't you want to use AI? I recently went to a lecture on using AI within careers teams. Why wouldn't we want to do this to help us to elevate the work we're doing, but not at the expense of, as you say, Laurent, putting yourself out, doing the complete opposite of standing out, not being seen. So we definitely, promote the use of it.
And maybe a question to all of you. So is it fair to say that AI has somehow, increased the bar? So in terms of completeness, in terms of grammar, quality of, of a cover letter, of a CV, so versus, before AI?
I think that it has, I think people now need to be more aware of many more companies using it in those initial stages. Therefore, if I was Melanie right now, I definitely would be telling students, to be really thoughtful about what they apply for, how their resume looks, what keywords they probably need to include to make sure that they can get through that first hurdle. So I do think that it actually encourages applicants to be more thoughtful.
And this is exactly what we talk to the students about. I've worked in that recruitment environment, so I've used ATS systems myself, so I know exactly what the capabilities are. But also, as you quite rightly say, Laura, there's still a human at the end of it. There's still a human that's kind of creating what the AI is looking for, because as we mentioned pre today's session, our students get quite scared about what AI can do, but we're always talking to them about their skills. It underpins everything that we do, and it's something that's woven into the curriculum as well, this ability to understand your skills, to be able to articulate what skills you've got. So I think the quality of the CV and the cover letter that comes out of our university is very strong, because the students are quite tuned in already to what they're good at. And as you say, the most important thing when you're applying for a role is to have researched the company and to have read the job description. And this, if you do those two things, have integrity, are self-aware, then I think you're putting yourself in a really good position to make a strong application.
Maybe let's switch topic a bit. I think the fashion industry is a very international industry. That's at least the reputation. And I'm sure, Melanie, you have a lot of international students. I'm sure, Laura, you have a lot of international applications. So now, I think we got Brexit in the UK. We got, I think a bit more introvert focus in the US. So are international careers, still doable these days? Has it become more difficult? or do you still feel that, the best talent is getting into the right place? So maybe Melanie, if you could start, and then Laura, if you could build on that.
I mean, in terms of international students, for us, I feel that our international students really bring that global perspective. And I think, Laura, I can see you smiling there. And I think that's something that's really valuable in today's fashion landscape, and indeed the landscape of all of the creative industries. And I think as well, many come with some incredible prior experience, so they can be a real asset. International students can be a real asset to an organisation. So I mean, I always encourage the international students to lean into that, to build a narrative around that unique background that they've got, talk about how they can add diversity and innovation to the role, because they come with a great perspective, and as I say, a lot of them with prior experience. So I think they need to, in the UK here, make the most of those graduate visas, the post-study work routes, which can be sometimes quite complex to navigate. Again, at the university, we provide lots of support with that. And whilst sometimes there can be some challenges around sponsorship, I think equally in London, Paris, Milan, and I'm sure with you, Laura, employers are really open to global talent, particularly when they come with those in-demand skills and a really proactive approach.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I don't know if it's the European in me, but as many people as I can get from different countries make my life better. And I definitely think it's the same in fashion. I mean, it is definitely a little bit more challenging from the US. A lot of the graduate visas in Europe don't tend. Sorry, my lights just got out. It's very strange. A lot of the it can be quite challenging to support graduate visas in the US. But we've now got an entity in the UK which is making things a bit easier. We've just started hiring in the UK, and it's just so wonderful. I love it. It's nice to just have a fresh set of eyes, a fresh perspective. And I think it's really important as you build a brand and as you build this brand globally, for you to have those different insights and those different people to give their perspective on whether it comes to design. We all know that there are different attitudes towards clothing in different countries, right? So I would use Italy for an example. Italy absolutely uses intimates as an accessory, whereas in different markets, intimates are functional, so, and it's having that understanding and knowing those nuances. So we really embrace having people to work for us internationally. Like I said, it's definitely challenging with visa sponsorships, but there are ways around it, and as we continue to grow, we're looking forward to adding more people to the team that aren't just based in the US.
That's definitely sounds encouraging.
Yeah.
And I think would love to hand over to you, Laurent, for the Q&A. We got some 10-15 minutes left before we do a wrap up. And we got quite some questions, so I think our viewers are active.
Yeah, of course. Yes, I see actually a lot of questions. I mean, while I'm gonna prepare the next ones, Paola is asking where and how did each of your journeys in fashion begin? I think that's because we've all worked for different brands in different countries, but I think some people just ask a basic question: where do we start, and how did you start? So if you may tell us, maybe Melanie, and then Laura.
I started in menswear in design. So I didn't originally have a buying background, and the role evolved. It was a very it was a small business. We were a concession within Topman, and you had to be very agile. It was a great time. And the role kind of evolved into a buying role. I think and that kind of set the tone for the rest of my career until I decided to move into headhunting and consulting. But I think for me, I talk about this all the time. I think the biggest thing for me, I think one of the best skills that I utilised in that early stage of my career, so I'm adding to this question and giving you a little tidbit, I think was curiosity. I think I got on in that job because I was inquisitive, because I asked questions. I was interested in what everybody else did. So although I was doing my role in design, I had an eye on what they were doing in production. I was looking at what the technical team were doing. I was looking at what they were doing in the buying team. And I think that really, really helped me to stand out. And when an opportunity came up in buying, it wasn't a job. It wasn't something that I'd thought of. It was something that was suggested to me. We think that this would be good for you. So I went for it.
Thanks, Melanie. Actually, Laura, I have another question for you. Malcolm from London is asking, for someone just starting out, how do you weigh the trade-offs between joining a heritage house versus a fast-growing new brand?
Oh, gosh. I mean, both have got their pros, both have got their cons. I mean, fast growing, I would say, you can often make a very visible mark quickly, and you can kind of shape that brand's future. It's quite an agile environment, so there's kind of less layers for you to jump through, I would say. I think the roles are much broader. So if you're somebody like Melanie's just said, and Melanie, me and you are the same person, basically somebody who is very, very curious. I think working in a fast-paced startup is great because it gives you more likely to wear multiple hats and more likely to know what planning does, what merchandise does, what operations do, etc. I also think you have a bit more creative expression. The cons, the obvious one is it's less stable. Okay. There's less stability for sure. There's lack of structure, which for some people that's very important. I would say there are definitely resource constraints. I mean, when we first started SKIMS, I used LinkedIn Talent Hub for 3.5 years. I had no ATS. I worked on an Excel spreadsheet, and I'm not very good at Excel. So it was definitely challenging. And there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure to scale, etc. Whereas, I mean, heritage pros for me is globally recognized. It adds a lot of weight to your resume. It's very established with its hierarchies. So it's very clear. It's very defined. If you want to be a VP, you have to hit this, this, get there, which is actually, people like that. People like to know what their goals is. Sometimes with a startup that can be a little bit curved and a bit wishy-washy, and we're trying to, build the rocket as we fly it, I would say. I think from being at heritage brands, they're experts on how you scale, right? And I think that is something that is really interesting and is something that you can learn from, and there's no better example of scale than when you're with a heritage brand. I think the cons are there's more levels, there's more things to get through. If you want to make a decision, it usually is a 5-step situation to make a decision, which can definitely be a bit frustrating. And then I think the brand constraints at times, they have a very strong brand DNA. So you always have to be very mindful of how you present yourself, of what you say. And that can be challenging for some people. But I love both. I really love both. I just think you have to work out what kind of person you are and what's going to suit you. In an ideal world, you'll have experience with both.
Yeah. No, I mean, super interesting. I see a lot of questions around, basically where do we start? How can we enter the industry? Also, people, living in countries like Bangladesh, Southeast Asia, who wants to work in the US or in Europe. I can start answering these questions because obviously, and we see also a lot of international students coming from the Middle East who are studying in Europe and wants to work for the local brands, and some of them are not finding work. It's not because they're from the Middle East, because a lot of Europeans are not finding work as well. I worked in Dubai when I worked for Chanel. I've worked in different countries as well. And I feel that nowadays there is the opportunity to create local brands as well. And we see a lot of fast-growing, emerging brands that have been created in Saudi, that have been created in Vietnam, and I think there's a huge opportunity for people to go back to their home countries and to leverage on the experience and what they learned in Europe and start their own brands in their own country. I think we'll see more and more of that. And also certain brands that have been created in these countries will attract talent and will need also the skills to develop these brands locally. So I would encourage some people, instead of trying to work for these heritage brands, well-established brands, to also potentially start their own thing in their home country. I don't know what you have an opinion about that, Melanie.
And I think that's great advice. I think, I think that's all I can say to that, really, Laurent. Better than through your own personal experience and through what you do with Dweet. I think that can be great. And to be honest, that's the intention of many international students to come here to take advantage of the graduate visa, and that's, I guess, what it's designed for. And then to go to their own countries and leverage their next opportunity through that. So
so
to add to that,
Grace from Montreal is asking, what are the most in-demand soft and hard skills you're helping students develop today?
So, what are the most soft and hard skills? I would say, from a soft skills perspective, we're talking about proactivity.
Mm-hmm.
We are talking about adaptability. We're talking about storytelling. These are huge. I think the industry is moving really quickly. So I think that the ability to communicate ideas clearly and work across disciplines is more important than ever. So obviously good communication skills, self-efficacy too is key. This is the confidence in your abilities, the confidence in your ability to respond positively in various different situations in the workplace. And then one that I mentioned earlier, resilience, having that willingness to adapt, remain motivated, overcome obstacles, and deal with ambiguity, uncertainty, and rejection, which we have to deal with in the recruitment process. We all have to deal with it. We've all dealt with it, and we will all deal with it again. So I think, in terms of soft skills, those for me are absolutely key.
Yeah, and I would love to build on that one. I think it's just the ability to get stuff done.
Yeah,
it's totally underestimated. I think a lot of people are confident, they have expectations, they have views. I think, and I might sound a bit old school and unpopular now, we've heard a lot about work-life balance. I think in the current times, it's probably a good moment to get stuff done, to work a bit harder, to also take an opportunity, even if that is not exactly your dream job at that moment. It's better than to be, without a role for the next few months. Because let's face it, I don't expect that 25 will be the big year of the rebound. I think 25 is rather a year of a transition, and let's hope that the whole macro environment, changes to the better at the beginning of next year. So I would go back to some of the good old ideas.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, because I think most of us, today have roles that they didn't expect to have when they entered the industry. So I think you have to start somewhere. And as you said, Achim, sometimes it's not necessarily you're not going to start necessarily with your dream job. You'll have to work your way up the ladder, and sometimes you just need to enter the industry if that's what you're dreaming of. And then slowly but surely get closer and closer to your dream position. But I think humility and curiosity are very important soft skills, and resilience, as you said, Melanie, as well.
Yeah, and just to remember that every tough lesson actually does help you grow. It really does. I have these conversations with my 19-year-old and my 22-year-old. Those tough days and those tough feelings are those things that really do drive you through. You can get through those things. And like you say, that's where you build your resilience. And it's not easy out there right now, but just keep trying and give everything that you've got. And you're right, Achim, go back to kind of old school. I'm here. What do you want me to do? How do you kind of attitude?
And network.
I think it also goes back to the point you made earlier, Laura, on working from home versus being in the office. It might be more convenient on some days to work from home, but in order to be seen, in order to leave a mark, in order to network, it's probably good to be in the office. And it's, I think, as you said, some people on the way to the coffee machine or the kitchen, you might bump into somebody who has an idea or has an opportunity, and you are able to take advantage of that, which you will not if you are at home.
I mean, we have a question from Alondra. She's asking, after acquiring a first role outside of university, are there specific things a young professional can do to advance beyond an entry-level role? So,
I think it's just that, like we've just said, I'm here. Hello.
Exactly.
What else can we do? What
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
And I think it's also what Melanie said earlier. It's this curiosity. It's not only yourself to the role you are currently playing. Try to understand what your colleague is doing. Try to understand what the other department is doing and how your piece of work fits into the bigger picture. And I think at least I've seen a lot of my clients and also a lot of my colleagues excelling when they were basically already doing the next job. I think they just took a bit more on that they were expected to do. And then people said, why is that guy not yet promoted? Or, she could take on this role. So I think it's initiative, it's curiosity, it's drive, it's energy, but not in a clever way. It's not energy for the sake of it.
No, for sure. And I think you need to let people know what you want also. I mean, I can talk about my personal experience. I joined Chanel as a financial controller, which wasn't my dream job at the time, but I knew it was my way in. As soon as I entered, after 2 weeks, I went to the HR director and I went to the global commercial director. And I said, one day I'd like to manage a store. So they laughed at me at the beginning because I was the financial controller. But then, I kept saying it, and it took 1.5 years. But after 1.5 years, there was a position in a store. And then the HR called me and said, you were serious about, wanting to work in retail? I said, yeah. So then I got that job. It took me 1.5 years, right? But then it happened. So, I think, as I was saying earlier, I mean, you need to find a way in if it's really what you want to do. Maybe not your dream job straight away, but then let people know once you're inside, network within the company, and then it will happen.
So I realize we're coming to the end. I think
right.
of our 60 minutes, and time was flying. I think. So I think we should do that again. We have, I realize, plenty of questions left out here, so we'll find a creative way of providing some answers, maybe through some of the LinkedIn posts. We will also provide a video of this session, so which we will make available on the different homepages and also share through LinkedIn. So let me thank all of you for taking the time early, not really early morning, but early morning in LA, and a bit later here in Europe. I'm really excited about all of you joining us. We have people from Asia, from the US, from the West Coast, from the East Coast, from different parts of Europe, and from Bangalore and Baltimore, as I've seen here in the Q&A right up. So thank you for that. Thanks for the interest. I hope this was helpful. Send us your feedback. And what I take away from this is, yes, times are not easiest, but there is opportunity. There is companies like SKIMS that are recruiting. There is passionate career managers like Melanie that are helping the young talents and decision makers of the future to find their way. There is Dweet that provides opportunities on the temp side, but also on the permanent side, or for just a gig. And we at FashionSIGHTS, we will continue to provide, insights and ideas to guide you through some of that. So let's stay in touch. Thanks to you all. It was fun. So we should do it again.
Thanks, Achim, for the initiative. It was great. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.